Good morning, folks from Nook. I just thought I'd send you a little video to show you the challenges that I'm facing in my veggie patch. You can see that large slippery slope down there. I cannot manage that easily walking, so I usually bring the quad bike down just so that I don't end up on my butt. There's a lovely set of steps there that have been built for me by a man what does, but unfortunately they're all just framework with a bit of rock in them. They haven't been filled with topping or road base or anything yet, so I'm still reduced to sliding down on my butt or bringing the quad bike. The hedge is in the process of being demolished, and so I have a large mulcher that I'm slowly feeding the small branches into to add to the compost heap. The large branches will go on the bonfire. Here is my slopey section of paddock. This is the one section of paddock that's surrounded by trees, so relatively sheltered from the wind. And here is my veggie patch surrounded by rue and deer fence. I have managed to weed the top row of wicking beds, and it's a process of weeding and creating a barrow full of weeds, trundling it down to the compost heap, which is at the bottom of the garden, filling up from the compost heap with lovely compost and bringing it back up again, and repeat. Each of these rows of wicking beds has I'll just move this, has a float valve operating it to get the water to the right height. Once it's at the right height, well, up until the right height, it fills the IBCs next to it, which have sand in the bottom. They're all plumbed into it. So everything I plant in there is getting watered from the bottom. And theoretically, that works without too much interference from me. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work, because last year I didn't have these timber covers on the float valve tanks, and the float valves perished in the sun and sank and left the valves open and drained the tank. There's the tank at the end, and I have to make sure that's filled once a week maybe, or once a month, I don't know yet. I'm still working on it, but that gets fed. I've got a tap and hose down here connected up to those. I've got 3 huge tanks up at the back of the shed there. So this is what the bottom of the wicking bed looks like, and I haven't finished this one. I've just pulled back the shade cloth because it's full of weeds, and I'll get the generator down here to, not the generator, the power spray down here to spray off the excess sand from the bottom of that shade cloth, and then I'll be able to pull it out and get rid of the weeds and top up the sand. Then the shade cloth goes back onto wet sand, which stays wet because of this wonderful plumbing down here. Where is it? There it is. And so the soil is on top of the shade cloth and stays watered, but not soggy, hopefully. And yeah, the plants grow into that without needing my intervention too much, as long as I maintain the setup. This next row is something that I didn't get finished 2 years ago. Last year it fell in a big heap because I'd had Dad here on his last legs and I was caring for him. Spring just fell in a hole. So I've got a bit of work to do on them, and more work to do on these ones down here. You can see the end two have water in them. I haven't even filled up the sand to the right height yet, and the frogs love laying eggs in there, and I've got tadpoles. Further down we have a large pot. It looks like a pot, but it's got my dwarf apple in it, which is wonderful. When I first moved in here, the dwarf apple was on a very steep slope, and the branches went down to the ground where the dog said thank you very much and I'll eat the apples off them. So yeah, that wasn't very good, so it got moved, and fig trees in there. and my very, very, very weedy berry patch. So you see, I haven't gotten too far on this lot yet. This looks good. Tomorrow will be my spraying day for the paths in between the beds, and I'll let them die off a fair bit before I start on anything too structural, but I'll keep up the weeding. Unfortunately, what I discovered a couple of days ago was that we have had a malfunction and the water is not getting to that wicking bed, so I'll have to backtrack the pipe a bit and see if I can find out what the problem is. Yeah, so what else have I got growing? Well, it's mostly the berries. They're all berries in individual, the blue tubs. They're all plumped into the wicking system, which of course isn't working because the water's not getting down there at the moment. And I'm just going to take you a walk down to the compost heap. This is a lovely pile of soil that I got from a landscape gardener. Magic soil underneath, but lots of things growing in it. So I'm going to have to sieve that to turn it into some nice topsoil for the veggie beds. Similarly, I've got a lovely pile of mulch here, which has got grass growing through it. So I'll have to treat that the same. And down here is my chaos area. I've been collecting stuff for compost for a couple of years now, I'm emptying the compost bins. That's where I'm getting the stuff. This is where I'm getting the stuff for the to top up the veggie beds. Unfortunately, there's a lot of cardboard in it. When I first built it, I had lots of packing boxes left from when we moved, and they had lots of packing tape on them. So as I go, I have a rubbish bag there to filter out the cellophane that's left from that, and any dastardly weeds go in the bag there for the green bin. So living in rural as I do, I've got lots of bags of horse poop that are all growing nice grass, and lots of spoilt hay to build that compost back up with once I've emptied it. And yes, the slowly being demolished hedge is creating lots of input for the compost heap too. It's a project. Thought you might like to see it.